the Filipino prosumers basically are part of the 15 to 20% of the group of, it's part of a 15 to 20% group of Filipinos who are actually quite progressive in their thinking. You can think of them as opinion makers, but they're actually more than opinion leaders. They're more than that. They actually are actively seeking information, actively seeking innovations in order for them to disseminate it to others. Now, just to give you a little bit more of who a Filipino prosumer is. A Filipino prosumer is someone who explores and embraces innovation. So it's someone who's basically at the core or the bleeding edge of innovation. They're not the ones who create the innovation. They're not the ones who are inventing the innovations themselves. But they're the ones who are actively seeking them, actively curating them, and actively disseminating them. Now, why would they want to do that? Because they actually are in it for the experience. They are in it for the sheer pleasure of actually being informed. So they actually want to be on the bleeding edge in terms of information and in terms of experiencing new things, new brands, new products, new technologies, and even new ideas. Now, they're also highly influential now in their intimate social circles. So you probably can think of them as social media influencers. But they are more than social media influencers because they may not necessarily have a large group of followers. They probably don't have millions of followers but it's larger than average. They probably have about 500 to 1,000 followers, so medyo manageable. And what they do is they actually keep in touch and keep the relationship with their followers on a more intimate basis. And they actually have a relationship with their followers. Now, we will also see that these prosumers, these Filipino prosumers, are very marketing savvy. They know that we are advertising to them. We are a communications agency. And basically, when we communicate to them, when we buy a spot on TV or a print ad on press titles, for example, or magazines, they know that we are advertising. And that's okay for them. That's part of the deal with being a consumer and being a prosumer. What they're asking for, though, is that they're actually very demanding of brands. They actually, from the last research, for example, that we did, they actually demand that brands take a stand, for example, on social issues, or relate with them on a more deeper level. Now, the other thing is that what actually differentiates them from an early adopter is that an early adopter just simply adopts. But for prosumers, they are enthusiastic about adopting it and testing it and actually disseminating it. So not only are they the source of innovation, not only are they testers of the innovation, they're actually also the ones who are disseminating the information that they encounter, whether it's in new content, new media, new technology, or even new emerging beliefs. So that's what makes the Filipino prosumers prosumers. Just to give you a little bit more background on the Filipino prosumers, 97%, practically everyone, of the Filipino prosumers consider themselves to be the first person they know to have tried something, or tried something that is very new. So they're actually one of the first few in their own circles who try new things. They're also very influential. 88% are consulted by their peers for counsel or advice or recommendations on a range of topics, including brands, including advertising, including ideas and philosophies. 80% are actively engaged in pop culture. Now, not only are they immersed in pop culture, they're actually engaged in it. And as I mentioned earlier, they actively seek new things, whether it's in news, in music, in film, in literature, or even blogs. So they're the ones who are actively seeking it. They also, as I said, they're not necessarily media influencers, but because of their influence amongst their social circles and the intimate relationship that they have with their followers or with their network, actually 2/3 of them would see that their social media posts are being shared or reposted by others. So it's not by sheer design, it's just a consequence of the influence that they have. So that's what makes a Filipino prosumer a prosumer. And prosumer for us actually doesn't stand for professional consumer or progressive consumer. We just use the term prosumer to differentiate them from the mainstream. So basically, that is what a prosumer is all about. What I would like to do is actually just take a step back and take a look at the world that we have at the moment. And probably this is the most obvious thing I can tell you. Our worlds have expanded. Now more than ever, we can travel quickly. News travel also very quickly. With digital media, we're able to get news and views about lives in other countries. And with social media, we're actually very much connected. And that's pretty much obvious. And this is because of shifts in technology, shifts in the economy, shifts in society in general. But with these access to information, access to technology, we're actually beginning to face a new predicament. So we have more access to information than before, but we are actually not 100% sure whether the information that we are getting is factual. We can see images, we can see videos, and probably we can think, may picture naman, may video naman. But there's technology that can actually alter images, that can alter videos. I don't know if you've heard about yung mga talking videos where yung talking heads can be edited such that we can make Obama or Trump say something. So how sure are we that the things that we are seeing are actually real? We can no longer be certain that they are not digitally altered. Now, shopping. We can now shop across borders, but how sure are we that the things that we are ordering for, that are photographed in the different, in the websites that we go to, how sure are we that those are the same things that we will receive? So basically, what we have observed in Havas Ortega group is basically, in this age, in this information and data infused, we've got lots of data, we have got lots of information, where info travels really, really fast, we're actually faced with a very big question. Can we still trust, or can we trust who and what we see and hear online, in real life, analog-wise or digital-wise? Can we still trust that? And we emerged with a hypothesis that perhaps we live in a world where trust is eroding. And that is essentially the core of the research that we conducted. We went to the market, we went to prosumers and asked them what their thoughts are with regard to trust. And this is the meat of the study that we're sharing with you. And in a nutshell, we actually found out that for prosumers in the Philippines, we know that they are already beginning to see a world wherein trust is eroding. That trust has become a rarity. And it is a problem because for prosumers, they also believe that trust is actually the glue that holds societies, communities, teams together. Now, without that trust, how that can be moved? Now, just to share with you some of the statistics that we found out, 94% of Filipino prosumers actually believe that trust is the cornerstone of society. It is the glue that holds communities. It is the glue that holds teams, that holds society together. And it is also the medium or the catalyst through which there is a smooth flow of social and even commercial or financial transactions. And that's something that's given amongst prosumers. In fact, they also believe that a country that is doing great is where people actually trust one another. If we don't trust one another, then there's something problematic with our country inherently. And that's a sign for them that trustworthiness has got to be there for a country to be great. Now, what we are beginning to see, however, and this is the reason why we think that for Filipino consumers, trust is eroding, is because 86% of the same consumers, the same prosumers, actually say that trust is a rare value these days. So it's beginning to be rare and rare. And because of that, there's a kernel of doubt that is emerging. Now, the thing is, tech was supposed to have created a trust, a foundation of trust, because tech actually made us closer to one another. But when we ask consumers, the prosumers, 2/3 would actually say that people are less trustworthy these days than they were 100 years ago when life was simpler. So what's up with that? So, and I'm close to 2 in 3 also now worry. We don't trust one another, basically. 65% worry that people in my country don't trust one another, and that's a bit of a problem. Now, if we're not ready to give in, consumers are not really ready to give in, because 63% would still inherently trust somebody or trust people until they give them a reason to not trust them. Only 37% would inherently distrust until given a reason to trust. So there's still hope for us. but it certainly is getting more and more difficult to do that. Because 90% of prosumers actually say the trust between people is hard to gain and it's easy to lose. So it's a very fragile commodity, and we understand that. We also tend to trust less over time. Time is not on our side because as we age, as we experience more, as time goes by, it's not a help in maintaining a rosy-colored view about trust. Because 51% of the prosumers actually would say that as I get older, I become less and less trusting. So it doesn't also help that we live in an environment wherein Brexit, Trump, border walls are hot social and news media topics. So all of these things, something is boiling within a prosumer, and the environment around her is also changing. So that's essentially where we are at with regard to prosumers. Prosumers are actually thinking the trust is eroding. The trust is becoming a rarity. And it is something, and it is worrying because we know, prosumers know, that trust is the glue that holds us together. Now let's take a step back. And if you look at globally, what has been happening in terms of trust. Globally, what we have noticed when we did a study is that we actually noted that we are beginning to see that the circle of trust, that window of trust that we have towards each other is contracting. And this is a global trend. Previously, our model of trust is something that is rooted in the family. If we ask somebody, who do you trust the most likely they will trust their family. But they will also say that they trust their community, people within their friendship communities, within their groups, within their colleagues. They're going to trust them, and ultimately that level of trust also diffuses into society at large. So this is the model of trust that we see right now, and this is the model of trust that built our societies in the past. What we are seeing though on a global basis is that there is a new emerging model of trust, and that emerging model of trust is actually constricting. It's becoming more and more constrained. Yes, we still trust our family, we still trust our community, and it stops there. Trust becomes more selective, trust becomes more insular. We become more insular and we become more protected by the people who we see to be similar to us. Now, that's on a global basis, and that's probably, you can just think about the US, for example, or Brexit as an example of this constricting model of trust amongst citizens, global citizens. The question that we have in our mind is this true for the Filipino prosumer? Is this something that the Filipino prosumer is already exhibiting? Remember, the Filipino prosumer is a harbinger of the future. It is a peek into potentially what could happen into the future, 12 to 18 or 18 to 24 months down the road. So is this true for the Filipino prosumer? We actually asked them, who do you feel close to and who do you trust the most? And we actually asked them your immediate family, your friends, down to the national political officials, your political party, your healthcare providers, your religious community, or your religious leaders. Let's go through them one by one. Immediate family is tops, basically. That's no surprise. 80% of Filipino prosumers actually say that they trust and feel connected, very connected to their family, their parents, their siblings, their children. And that's immediate family. And as I mentioned earlier, ito yung model natin kanina. Family, it all starts in the family. But you move a little bit further, you've got about a minimum of 60% actually believing and trusting their immediate friends and their extended family or their relatives. So blood and kinship is also something that's also coming in. So we're beginning to see our relatives as part of that circle of trust that we are willing to trust. But as we move further down, nakikita niya from 80 to 60 and then down to less than 40%. So there's an immediate drop in terms of the levels of trust that we give to others. The only 40% maximum are being trusted. In fact, 40%, less than 40% would trust our country. Less than 40% would trust our coworkers or colleagues, people that we see every day, or our fellow classmates or schoolmates. But only 30% would trust and feel connected to immediate neighbors. people that you also see on a daily basis. So that's changing. Now, let's go a little bit further, and it's actually a little bit more interesting. Social networks were supposed to build trust. Social networks were supposed to connect us. And in fact, that is the vision of Facebook. If you ask Mark Zuckerberg what his vision is, it's to basically connect everybody on the planet such that everybody's connected to one another. But only 25% now actually trust members of their own social networks. Now, the other thing that also was interesting to me, because I play games online, is that people you game with online, 15% would say that they actually trust people that they play with on a regular basis. And that's kind of interesting because of Fortnite, you rely on your teammates to keep yourself alive. So there's a dichotomy that's happening. I trust you with my digital life. I trust you that you will keep me alive in the game. But when it comes to my real life, I don't trust you. So parang there's a dichotomy and there's a difference between the two. Now, the other thing that also piqued our curiosity is that religious communities, less than 20% would actually say that they feel connected to or entrusting of their religious community. And religious leaders, only 12%. So things are changing, are about to change, if this is something that's going to hold for the mainstream in the future. Now, local communities, I've said, is only 18%. So people who pass by when we walk to work, who may not necessarily be our neighbors, but probably in our block, only 18% would say that I feel I can trust them. That if something happens to me while walking to work or from work, they will come to my aid. Now, how about other people? Religious leaders, I've said, only 12% would trust them. Local government officials, your political party, and your national political officials. Less than 10% would actually say that I feel connected to and I would trust these people. So it's essentially what I'm trying to say is that this model, the model used to be like this, and it probably is for now. But what is going to be happening, what could potentially happen in the future, is that model wherein trust is more constricted, trust that is more constrained, trust that is contracted. And because we are on the verge of becoming insular, we're on the verge of becoming more constrained and isolated. So